So good evening, sisters. Can you hear me? Good evening, sisters.
Good evening.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Vandana. So we have some more to join. It's just exactly 5 o'clock. We'll be starting in a while. Yeah, so it's also joining. Okay, so 11 of you are present here. So once again, a very good evening to all of you, all the sisters present here and all our teachers.
Good evening, sir.
Yes. So today's session will be taken by me. I would be taking on, I think today there's a little bit research part is left that would be covered next week since Dr. Lalit's maternal grandmother expired. So he's a bit busy over there. So I would be taking, I'm starting today paper 2, that is learning educational psychology on psychology of learning and development, so which I would be taking. So fine. So I think you guys been covering I think for last 2 weeks you are up to research methodology, is it?
Yes.
So I hope you have understood to some extent and you are reading the notes that sir is sending across. So before I take this session across, some of you already know me personally, have interacted with you one on one, but some of you may not know me. So I would like to give my share my personal profile, as my professional profile before I take this session up. So as you know me, my name is Samuel Teja, and by profession I am a counseling psychologist. So I have been working as a counseling psychologist. I'm into this field of psychology and counseling about 10 years, and I worked with lovely professional university as a counseling psychologist for 5.5 years. Then we started our organization called Abundant Life. So Abundant Life is an organization which is providing psychological and counseling services to across India and now to across the country. And we have team of psychologists, counselors, and the team of mental health professionals, those who are working in Abundant Life. So this is a bit about my professional background. Since I'm taking today the paper on educational psychology and the psychology of learning and development, so I thought of sharing my profile so that you are able to have that connection with me. So shall we start?
Yes.
Okay, fine. All right, so let me start. Let's share the screen. All right, so today we are starting. Uh, you are already doing paper 4. That's a research methodology. I think only a portion is left out that will be covered next week. So the paper we are starting with paper 2. We are done with paper 1. That's philosophy and education, and this is a paper 2, psychology of learning and development, and the paper 4 is already going on. That would be completed next week. All right. So in this section, we are going to basically cover the educational psychology part of it, which you might have certain portions and the things you have already studied in your B.Ed. So a few of the things will be new to you, but some of the basic things have been already covered in your B.Ed, which you have done it earlier. All right, so moving on. Can you see a screen?
Yes.
All right, so this paper 2, psychology of learning and development, we just look at into it, what are the objective for this paper so that we are able to have that connection with this paper. So objective on completion of this course, the students will be able to understand the nature of the learner. This is one of the first objective for this paper 2. Secondly, apply the principles of educational psychology in the classroom situation. Now, how educational psychology would help you, looking at the practical implication part of it, how you can practice the certain things, all the learning problems, how it could be catered in the classroom situation. Third objective is enhance your mental health and personality. That's like here we also would be covering that how a mental health of a teacher is very important, because teacher plays a very prominent role in a student's life, who is directly impacting the child. So teacher's mental health is very important. The kind of personality a teacher is having is also very important, and also the last thing, administering the psychological test. So under psychology, there are many psychological tests available, tests available in the which are done to assess the mental health and the psychological well-being of the individuals and the groups. So is the objective clear? Can I get some yes from you, either in the chat box or?
Yes, yes.
All right, clear. So now let's move to the next slide. Now let's have a look at the syllabus of paper 2. So paper 2, psychology of learning and development. There are two sections mainly here. In the first section, we would be covering educational psychology, and second is human development, and third learning, and fourth individual differences. And in the section B, we would be covering personality, and then sixth we'll be covering motivation, and seventh mental health, eighth conflict, and ninth creativity. So this is the entire syllabus of your paper 2, which we will be covering in this in the 2 Sundays. So today I'm going to cover basically the highlighted points in section 1. Today I'm going to cover education psychology in today's class. Secondly, I'm going to cover human development, and then from the section B, I'm going to cover mental health and the 8-point conflict. So these are the 4 portions that I'm going to cover today out of this section, all the entire syllabus of paper 2. Is that clear? Are you with me?
Yes.
All right, so let's proceed. You can ask me if there's any doubt and clarification. Do feel free to stop me anywhere and feel free to ask me any question. All right. All right. So
Okay.
clear. Now let's move to our first topic that we're going to start: educational psychology. So I think you already know about the educational psychology. You have studied about it in your B.Ed. B.Ed also in the paper 2, you study about educational psychology. Here we would be covering introduction to educational psychology, meaning and definition, nature of educational psychology, and scope of educational psychology. So now, before I dive into the topic educational psychology, I would like to know from some of you, what is your understanding about educational psychology? Because since you have already studied this the same subject in your B.Ed, so if you can share your insights from your existing knowledge, or both from the theory that you studied and your from your practice point of view as well. So can I get some, if possible, if you can also turn on your video if possible.
This is a study of our behavior of a child.
Okay, may I know who's speaking? I'm not able to see actually.
I'm Stavina.
Yes, Sister Veena, yes. So it's a study about the behavior of the study. Okay, yes, very nice. It's a good one. Yes, anyone else? What's your understanding about educational psychology? Anybody else would like to contribute other than Sister Veena? She has really contributed a good point. Study of a behavioral of the children.
It will help the teachers
It would help teacher in what sense?
in teaching learning process.
Okay, it would help. Who's speaking? Can I know, please?
Mr. Lavina.
Sister Lavina, okay. Yeah, sister. So it will help the in the teaching and learning process. Okay, yes. So it will help the teacher when he's teaching. He will be more effective. and also will help the learning process when how to impart an effective education to the child. All right.
Sir, maybe it's a scientific study of human learning.
Yeah, scientific study of human learning. Yes, a systematic and the scientific way of learning a
Scientific.
human being. All right, great, nice. Yes, what else?
It's also harmonious development of a child.
Yes, it's a harmonious development, the progressive development, right from the childhood till the old age, the growth and development process. Yes.
It is of the findings of psychology are applied in the field of education.
Yes, very great. Nice.
Scientific study of human behavior in educational setting.
Yes, so it's all the scientific study of psychology which is applied in the educational setup, to make the educational process more effective. Yes, thanks, Crispin. Yes.
Maybe, sir, it helps the teacher to understand, go in deep with, to understand the child psychology, wherein the teacher can put in a lot of effort.
All right. What's your name? I'm not able to see.
Rishma.
Sister Rashma, okay. So here, yeah, definitely it is also again going deeper into the child. It's very important, I think, as most of you are educators and the principals, and you're heading the institutions, and you're leading the group of teachers. So you understand that how it's very important, to understand, because who is our subject matter, who is our audience, with because of which our institutions are running. It's only because the child, the student. We can imagine that during the COVID, this 40 days or 60 days, the schools were completely closed, not even online classes. We could imagine the environment in the school, is it? School, the institutions cannot exist without. So student is our subject matter, our first person, with which the entire circle is revolving around, because there is a child, there are teachers, there is staff, there's other activities happening around. All right, great. So thanks for your insights on education psychology. It was really great insights you have all contributed. Now let's dive into the topic of educational psychology. All right. So now let's look at the introduction part of it. This is the first unit of the second paper of psychology of learning and development. This course deals with the importance and contribution of educational psychology on theory and practice of education. What it deals? Importance and contribution of educational psychology on theory and practice of education. Second, every teacher is confronted with the problem of individual difference in the class. We see that if we are having a class of 50 students, all the 50 students are different. You are dealing with a five, like one child is in the world itself. We see that, no? For every parent, a child is their world. Do you agree with me?
Yes.
So that means if you're having a 5,000 students in the class in your school, you're having 5,000 different worlds existing in your school, is it? So we can see there the problem of individual difference in the class, and we can imagine that a teacher's difficulty, and how challenging it is for a teacher to concentrate on 50 children, whereas there's a lot of differences. So these are some of the challenges it's faced. So this psychology, educational psychology, gives you way out, how to connect with every child, coming to their level, understanding their psychology in a different way. And lastly, it describes the meaning and the nature of educational psychology. An attempt has been made to describe the characteristics and the meaning of learning. Okay, so here the nature of psychology described, and also the characteristics and the meaning of learning. So learning is, I would say, that's why the name of the paper is also psychology of learning and development. So here, if you look at this, basically educational psychology basically focus on the learning part of it, because learning is the basic agenda of the school, is it? If the school is existing, it's only because they are imparting education. The students are here to learn, teachers are here to teach, but end result is the learning. So now basically the education psychology also focus on how a learning could be made more effective. All right, so is it clear, the introduction part of it? Shall we proceed?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, now let's move to the meaning and definition. education psychology consists of two words, psychology and education. Now, psychology is a science of understanding and analyzing human mind and behavior, which you have rightly put it in our discussion. So psychology, the pure psychology deals with, like I am a psychologist. What's my primary job is to understand and analyze human behavior. If anybody comes to me for counseling, like I have counseled about in my this career of 10 years in the counseling and psychology, I have counseled by 5,000 clients. You know, I was working with Lovely, so 5,000 sessions I've conducted. So if I look back my 5,000 sessions that I conducted on one-on-one, and 150 seminars I conducted in the across the North India, going around, you know, the different schools. So I can see there that how a human behavior is different, you know, how every mind is different. We cannot, though the people may come to me for the same problem, you know, but I need to understand their problem, the same problem, with a different perspective from their perspective. Do you agree with me? So educational psychology is an attempt, educational psychology is its application in the field of education with the aim of socializing man and modifying behavior, you know. So it's also how we modify a children's behavior. According to Crow and Crow, educational psychology describes and explains the learning experiences of an individual from birth to old age. Now, if you look at, you know, the learning begins, you know, right from the, can somebody tell me when do we start learning? When a child starts learning, or when do the actually the learning start takes place? We say from birth. Does it start from birth or even before?
In the womb, when a child is in the womb itself.
Yes, very true. So the learning actually start taking place. That's the reason there is a concept called nature and nurture. The few things children know by nature, through the hormones, you know, through the biology of their parents, through the hierarchy, you know, through the heredity. The few things that the children we haven't taught, but they are born with. That's called by nature. And the nurture is the environment in which they have been brought up. So the learning takes place even before the birth. When a woman is pregnant, she conceives. At that time itself, every feel that she's having, every problem she's experiencing, every stress she's going through, you know, everything is connected with the learning, you know. All the, when the brain wiring is done, you know, when the brain is getting developed, at that time it's impacting the child's learning, which is not seen at the moment, but which would be reflected later on as he grows up, as in the later childhood, or when he becomes a teenager. Clear? Now, let's look at some of the other definitions. So those of you joined just now, we have started with paper 2, that is educational psychology. So the paper 2, the psychology of learning and development. Under that, we just started with the educational psychology. That's one of the first point that we are discussing, because some of you just joined. So I thought, you know, for you to catch up, so you can know. So now we have just covered the introduction, now the meaning, now we're just looking at some of the definitions. So according to Skinner defines educational psychology as a branch of psychology which deals with the teaching and learning, basically. Teaching and learning, which you already mentioned. Stephen, educational psychology is a systematic study of educational growth and development of a child. According to Jude, educational psychology is a science which explains the changes that take place in the individual as they pass through the various stages of development. And lastly, according to Peel, educational psychology is a science of education. So these are some of the definitions which we have looked at. So now let's look at the meaning, which is a little more deeper way. Education psychology is one of the branches of applied, sorry, it's applied, not applies, applied psychology, concerned with the application of principle, techniques, and other resources of psychology to the solution of a problem confronting the teacher attempting to direct the growth of a children towards a defined objective. So basically here, what we do in education psychology, we use all the principles of psychology, all the theories of psychology, all the resources of psychology for the growth of the child towards a defined objective. If the child is not performing well, if the child is underperforming, our duty is to look into it and try to solve the problem. The child and his development, his needs and his potentialities. The learning situation, including group dynamics, they also affect learning. So we also use group dynamics to make the learning more effective. The learning process and its nature, the ways to make it effective. Stated differently, the central theme of education psychology is the psychology of learning. So now, since the central theme of educational psychology is the psychology of learning, I mean, that is the name of the paper as well, paper 2. Now we are going to dive into the learning part of it. We will look into it. What is the psychology of learning? You know, what all things are being covered under this psychology of learning? Because learning is the main objective when the student come to class, when we teach, you know, what all things are covered in that. So this area is concerned with such problems like how do children acquire skills? When is learning more effective? What are the factors that help learning process? How do we measure the amount of learning? Are there any economic methods of memorizing? Why do we forget? Can memory be improved? So these are some of the things which are related to the learning, which we usually deal with in the psychology of learning. Psychology helps the teacher to get answer to these questions. It tells that learning becomes more effective if factors like motivation and interest are taken into consideration of every teacher. The knowledge of psychology has helped the teacher in modifying her approach to teaching learning process, which you have already mentioned, how it's very important because the motivation level it's as it said that you can only give what you have. There's an English saying that we can only give what we have. If you are frustrated teacher, you will be frustrated on your children. But if you are joyful teacher, sometime I've seen many of the teachers, because I conduct workshops, webinars and the seminars for the school teachers. I've seen many of the teachers, I ask them one question every time when I go and conduct my seminars: why have you chosen this field? You know, some say okay, there was no option, some say it's my passion, some, so they have various answers. So sometimes I see the teachers telling that, you know, it's their passion. As they come to school, it really makes their day. You know, they are very excited about right from the home itself. You know, that excitement they're carrying from home to the workplace, you know, it's bringing joy to their class, it's bringing happiness. Because when you come frustrated from home, you are bringing frustration, and the energy that you're carrying, the negative energy, is impacting every child that you come across. Sometimes you are throwing the garbage of home to the class, you know, and it's kind of when the children are sometimes suffering for the things which even they haven't done anything. All right, so it's very important the factors like motivation and interest are taken care of every teacher. That's the reason there are timely webinars are done for teachers. There are timely workshops are conducted. They are being asked to do a lot of learning so that they stay motivated and updated about the teaching and learning process. Are we together? So are we good so far?
Yes.
All right. Now, let's proceed further. Educational psychology, under psychology of learning, educational psychology focus on child-centered psychological principles that are used in formulation of different stages, you know. So basically, educational psychology is more child-centered, you know. Timely changes in subject and activities in the curriculum is given, conformity with the needs of the student, development of characteristics, learning patterns, need of the society, all these things are taken care. But ultimately the child, it's a child-centered approach. Are you with me? It's a psychology of learning is a child-centered approach, because as I told, child is the center of attraction of the school, of the institution. Are we together? So this is what has been told here. Now let's look at the nature of educational psychology. So following are some of the important characteristics of the nature of education psychology. It is an applied branch of fundamental psychology. What is it's applied branch? Because as Sister Crispin was sharing that, all the psychology fundamentals, all the techniques, all the scientific behavior, all the techniques of how to learn a behavior is applied in the educational setup, in the classroom setup. That's why it's a applied branch of a fundamental psychology. It combines two fields together, education and psychology. It's a perfect blend. Now if I talk about my specialization, I hold a specialization in psychology, and Dr. Lalit, he holds a specialization in education. So it's a perfect blend. So that's why we sometimes we talk randomly that no, it's a perfect blend of our team, that he's from educational background, I'm from the psychological background. And when we are dealing with the institution, both education and psychology go hand in hand. You cannot educate a child without considering their psychology. Can you? If I ask you a question, can you just bother the psychology of the child and just try to teach?
No.
Is it possible?
No.
No.
No, it's not possible, because first of all, more than what you educate them, more than what you teach them, what is more important is understanding the learner. Understanding the learner is very, very important. That's why a lot of emphasis has been given here in the B.Ed itself, that why do we understand? Why do we need to understand our audience? Why do we need to understand our subject? So it's a systematic study of human behavior in education situation, scientific study of human behavior of children, of teenager. Sometime I was sharing the same thing. I was taking one class this morning for the B.Ed students as well on the educational psychology. So I was taking them example of a parents. I was saying how parents, when they are dealing with their children, when the children are small, they're in the childhood phase, they behave with them like a child, is it? But the child grows up to a teenager, but they're still behaving as a child. कि वो हमारा बच्चा है, is it? Is the child grows into an adulthood, still they're behaving the adult boy as a child. The child goes to college and joins a job, still they're behaving as if he's a child. Is it happening? Do you agree with me on this point? That means the child grows up, he enters into fourth different stage of his life, but the parents at times, they don't grow their mindset. Are you with me?
Yes.
So it is concerned, next point is concerned with these factors, principles, techniques which relate to the various aspects of child's growth and development. So it's concerned with the learning situation and the process by which learning can be more efficient and effective. How the learning can be more. Education psychology draws heavily from the various branches of psychology, biology, sociology, and anthropology. So these are some of the data is drawn from this. Now, again, further looking into some of the important characteristics, educational psychology is not as exact as natural science, since the human behavior cannot be predicted exactly because it's dynamic. So educational psychology is not the natural science, as we know that human behavior is dynamic, it's not static. Do you think the human behavior is static? No, it keeps on changing. If you are happy now, there's no guarantee that you will be happy after 1 hour. And so next point is educational psychology is a science of education, dealing primarily with how, when, and what of education. How. And next is it's not a normative, it is not a normative science, as it is not concerned with the value of education, does not concern itself with what ought to be, but it only describes it is as an applied positive science. While psychology deals with the behavior of all individuals in all walks of life, which we already told, from womb to tomb, from infancy to childhood to teenage to adulthood, the late adulthood, old age, and all that. So it does not, so it deals with the behavior of the pupil in relation to educational environment. So it's not concerned with what and why of education. It gives necessary knowledge and skill, a technical guidance for giving education the pupil in satisfying way. Now, we are done with the nature and the meaning and the definition. Now, let's look at the scope of educational psychology. Now, if you look at under the scope of educational psychology, 6 major areas are covered by educational psychology. What are those major areas? First one is the learner, the child, then the learning process, then the learning situation, the teaching situation, evaluation of learning performance, and teacher. So do you think all these elements are important in the institution or in the school? Learner.
Yes.
Learner
Yes.
is our first person, Then the learning process, how the learning takes place, the ways and how, and the learning situation, the environment in which the child is taught, the classroom environment, the teaching environment, and the teaching situation, in what situation the teaching is being imparted. Then the timely evaluation of the learning performance. If the children are not performing well, if they are having a poor academic performance, how it could be improvised, how it can be improved, so how it could be taken care. So timely, that's why there are timely workshop been conducted. Sometimes I come across many of the children, they have low academic grades, but when they come to me for counseling, I was told that the child is having an academic issue. But when I look into more deeper into his concern, it was not an academic issue. It was some problem happening in his relationship. This is some problem happening back in the family. That's kind of disturbing him. That's affecting his concentration problem. That's affecting his focus. And that's the reason he's having the low grade. You see how it's connected? So problem is not what the child presents. The problem is what the child hides. कहते हैं कि problem वो नहीं होती जो बच्चा दिखा रहा है. Problem क्या है जो वो छुपाता है. Is it? The last one is the teacher. The teacher is very important. As the learner is on the topmost, the teacher is not the least one, but it's all. Teacher is the kind of is a driver, I would say. Is it? Who is driving? If the driver is not efficient, do you think he will be able to drive efficiently? He will be able to take you safely to your destination? So it's very important, even the teacher having all the required skill. So is the 6 areas clear? Okay,
Yes.
so we will just look more deeper into all these 6, not it's 5 written here. 6, the learner. Education psychology acquaints us with the need of knowing the learner, okay, and deals with the techniques of knowing him as well. Following are the topics studied included in it: the innate abilities and capabilities of the individual differences and their measurements, the overt, covert, conscious as well as the unconscious behavior of the learner, the characteristics of his growth and development at each beginning from childhood to adulthood. So what we cover in the learner, we get to know the learner, his innate abilities, capabilities, his individual differences. As I told you, every child is born with a lot of capabilities. Do you believe that? I think you understand that better. You deal with the children on a day-to-day basis, is it? Every child, even the Carl Roger, he's one of the great psychologists. He said that he's an American psychologist. He once said that ultimately all humans are good. No one is bad, but it is their situation that makes them bad, is it? So there is an individual difference. Every child, as I told, is different in your class. There's overt, covert consciousness. There's the unconscious behavior of the learner. There are a lot of things the child is not expressing. There's a lot of underneath happening. There's a growth and develop, which is impacting his growth and development. So there's a lot of world inside the learner, which the teacher got to have an access to it. Second, the learning process. What is learning? After knowing the learner, deciding what learning experience are provided, the emerging problem is to help learner in acquiring this learning experience with ease and confidence. What is the purpose of learning process? Is to make the learning more easily and with confidence. We need to impart it. Nature of the learning, as laws, principle, theories of learning should be made, very flexible, more like remembering and forgetting, perceiving, concept formation, thinking, reasoning process, problem solving, transfer of training, ways, and means of effective learning. All right. So these things are taken care in the learning process. More than, I always say that uh, it's not. So sometimes we see children, even if you remember in your childhood, in your school days, you have your, well, I would say that you all had your one of your favorite subject, is it? Each of you, maybe when you're in your school, you must have had your favorite subject. Did you have any favorite subject in your school?
Yes.
Okay, each of you. Now, if you go back in your childhood and try to look at your childhood and try to remember that incident, actually, if you look at it, it is not the subject that was favorite. It was a teacher who was your favorite.
Yes.
It was a teacher who made that subject very interesting that you fell in love with the subject. All right. So this is what it happens in the learning process, and it depends on the teacher how you present it. Now, third, learning situation. Learning situation deals with the environmental factors, learning situations, classroom climate, and group dynamics and techniques. So it deals with the environment factors, how the environment plays a major role. That's why even one of the great psychologists has said again that you give me 1 dozen of uh, newborn children, and I have the ability to make them thieves, you know, and I have the ability to make them scientists by just giving the environment. Do you believe that?
Yes.
It is the environment. Sometimes you see there are 50 children in your class. Some children are very sharp. It's not that other are dull, but they don't have the proper environment and the learning situation at home. They are staying in the conflicted families. Some of the divorce, the parents are separate. So there's a lot of problem going on. So those are things that affect the learning. Now, moving to the teaching situation, it suggests that teaching techniques of teaching, it also helps in deciding what learning situation should be provided by a teacher to the learner according to his mental and physical age, his previous knowledge and level of interest. If you look at it, that's the reason we need to understand the learner. Sometimes we try to give something very solid to the child which he or she cannot digest. You see that? A child can drink milk, is it? When the child is small, when he does not have a teeth, can you give him a solid food, a chapati or a chicken or something very solid to eat? Can you give? Cannot, because it doesn't have those capabilities. Now, same thing, we need to understand the mental state and the physical age of the child. There's a two kind of age you need to understand here. One we have is a mental age. One other one is a chronological age. What is the chronological age? Is like, for example, I am 35-year-old. 35-year age is my chronological age. It's counted from the time I'm born. All right. Then there's the mental age. Mental age is basically my mental capability to grasp things, problem solving, my intellectual capability, my IQ, all that comes under in the mental age. Sometime you must have seen the child is 10-year-old chronologically, but mentally he is not even a 5-year-old. See that? And these are the kids, sometimes they have difficulty learning in the class, but we are giving everyone the same treatment. Are you with me?
Yes.
So we cannot give the same treatment to everyone. We need to understand every cup is not the same. The 20 minds sitting in the class are different. They are not the same. But when we give everybody the same treatment, it's like a doctor in the village. You go for headache, he gives the same medicine. You go for the toothache, he gives the same medicine. For every ache and pain and problem, he has the same medicine. Is it? So that's happened with at times with us as a teacher, that we have same treatment for everyone. So that's what happened in the teaching situation. Now the next one is evaluation of learning performance. Mainly here, what we do here, main objective of the education is all round development. Even the Mahatma Gandhi always said that by education means the all-round development of the child, the holistic development, what we talk about, is it? So it includes cognitive. Cognitive has to do with your intellectual, your reasoning, your decision making. Affective is to do with your feelings, you know, and psychomotor aspect is to do with your psychomotor activities, more of your motor activities, you know, like I would say writing. When I write, writing is a psychomotor activity because it's not only connected with my hand, but it's also connected with my mind. Is it? It's a psychomotor aspect of personality. All right. Now, if you look at education psychology suggests various tools and techniques for or for assessment or evaluation, such as performance tests, oral tests, written tests, which are given by psychology to assess the student psychology and the needs. Nowadays, there is inclusion that has come up very, you know, there's a, I would say that you must have studied the children with the special need, you know, how they are identified. In every, I always say that in every class, there are some excellent learners, there are some average learner, there are below average, and there are some poor, no, very, you can say, slow learners. So we need to understand that, we need to identify them, you know, doing this different tests which are given here. So it does not stop at the measurement only. It's not enough that आपने उसका test कर लिया, you did that test, you got the results, it's over. No, after testing result, the tests are analyzed. Causes for poor performance, backwardness is in any aspect of development is corrected by malnutrition, nourishment, are helped by guidance and counseling. Study habit, examination techniques, learning styles are analyzed and helped the learner so that he can overcome difficulties. So evaluation process is very, very important in the learning performance, you know. So these things are should be taken care. Now moving to the last very important factor, that's the teacher. Educational psychology emphasizes the need of knowing the self for a teacher to play his role properly in the process of education. It throws on the essential personality traits, interest, aptitude, the characteristics of effective teaching, etc., so as to inspire, help teacher handle the stress, conflict, and anxiety by giving insights into their personality. Hope I this is clear. The aspects which I covered, you know, so I think this it gives a lot of insights about the psychology of learning, is it? So is the topic clear so far? Can we move to the next, the methods?
Yes.
All right. So now let's move to the methods of psychology. You know, now there has been various methods, as we just studied in the previous slide, that there have been various methods, tests, techniques. So now there are various methods here. So a brief, what are the methods in education psychology? What are various ways that are used to collect data or to collect information about the student or our audience? What is method? A brief review of the development of methods will be helpful to you. Help to you if you are it's important of the subject in a greater respect. The first effort of conducting systematic experiment studies in psychology started there was an error here, apologies for that, in 1879 in Germany. In 1879, the first laboratory of psychology was established, you know, in Germany by William Wundt. You know, he was the first one to establish. The next important method of collecting data was evolved, the development of psychoanalysis. Psychoanalysis, an independent systematic system of psychology by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is one of the fathers of psychology who came up with this the therapy called psychoanalysis, and who emphasized the importance of unconsciousness in underlining the behavior. So he came up with a theory called the levels of mind, which you must have already studied somewhere in psychology. It's a conscious mind, a subconscious mind, and unconscious mind. Is it? The conscious mind is something that I'm talking to you right now. You're listening to me right now. Our conscious mind is active. And then there's a subconscious mind. Subconscious mind, we know the things that happened long back, but right now we cannot have the access to it. but we can learn it. Sometimes we have an intuition. So then the last one is the unconscious. Unconscious is something, I would say it's a dream state. A lot of the things which are buried in you, which you cannot remember. Sometimes you do things, but you do not know the reason for it. So there are underlying factors in your unconscious mind, which has the reasons for that. So psychoanalysis has attempted to find out the underlying and the unconscious bias to find out the behavioral causes of the children. And in the second decade of 20th century, psychology developed as an objective science of behavior by efforts of Pavlo Watson. Pavlo Watson is a behaviorist, who did a lot of studies on behavior. They came up with the behaviorism approach, that how psychology is a study of behavior, and the experimental and observation methods were developed to collect the data of study behavior. So the last one is a simultaneously testing movement also started with the introduction to statistics in psychology. So how it started in 1897, the first laboratory was developed, then the psychoanalysis was developed, and then in 20th century, the behaviorist approach came with a lot of classical conditioning and operant conditioning. And lastly, through the introduction of statistics in psychology, the testing movement, there are a lot of assessments, and the test has been introduced to evaluate the behavior of the children and the individual. Is it clear? Now, we are going to look at, as per our syllabus, there are 3 methods that are given here, which we will be looking at. First one is the experimental method. Second one is a case study method. And the third one is a observation method. Now, let's dive into the first one. The first method, that is the experimental method. Now, let's look at what this experimental method is. Experimental method is the most scientific and objective method of studying behavior. It is the method which is responsible for assigning the status of science of psychology. So experimental method, that's the reason in 1879, William Wundt established the first psychological laboratory in Leipzig in Germany. Since then, experimental psychology has become popular. Experimental methods consisting of actions uh, performed under pre-arranged or rigid control conditions. So even the J.V. Watson also mentioned that experimental research is a description and analysis of what will be or what would occur under control condition. Now, if you look at briefly, what is this experimental method? Experimental method is it's also known as a laboratory method, where the things are done under control condition, where everything is controlled. The light of the classroom is controlled, the observation is controlled, the behavior is controlled. So for example, if I need to study the aggressive behavior of the children, so there was a one study that was done on to check the aggression of the children, how the imitation, how do the children develop aggression. So in that, there were 2 groups were taken, one, and both were put in as 2 different conditions, and one group was asked to watch a video where the children are playing with the Bobo doll or with the toys, and the other group is asked to watch the children who are beating or showing that aggressive behavior towards the those toys. And after some time, and these children were left freely in the hall with the toys, and they could see that how both the groups of the children, those who watched the behavior of children as a peaceful, they were playing with the toys, other one, they were being aggressively behaving with the or throwing away the toys and all that. So this how they have done it under the control condition. The behavior was controlled by the observation, or we can say the insights they got it from the video. All right. Now there are steps. Now, there are different steps in experimental method. What is the first step? Raising a problem. First of all, we need to identify a problem. If I need to understand, for example, I want to study the effect of music on the concentration level of the children, you know. So what is the problem I have identified? I have identified the problem that children are having a low concentration in the class. That's the problem. The concentration, low concentration, is the problem that I've identified. Second step I do is a formulation of hypothesis, I think, which you also have studied in your research methodology. What is hypothesis? Hypothesis is a testable statement which always goes with the cause and effect relationship, if and then. That means if the music is present, then the children had a better concentration. All right. And now if the light is present, the children had a better concentration level. So forming a hypothesis, it's a testable statement. You just try to check whether it's happening or not. So it's a hypothetical statement. It's a testable statement which may or may not be true. That's what you are going to test in this hypothesis. After doing that, you make a distinction between the independent and dependent variable, which I think you also again studied in your research methodology. What is the independent variable and what is dependent variable? Now, if you look at the same example here, the effect of music on the concentration level of the students. Music is the, here, what is music? It's an independent variable, it's a cause. And dependent variable is the concentration. So what is independent variable? Any variable that you deliberately manipulate. Does it make sense? Is it clear? Any variable or element that you deliberately manipulate to see the effect in the other variable, you know, that is called the independent variable. So what we manipulated here, either light or a music, and where we want to see the effect or change in the concentration level. Is it clear? Does it make sense? Are you with me? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. So controlling the situational variables, music, temperature in the room, you know, again, controlling, again, the controlling the situational, what are situational variables? Now, if I am checking that the effect of light, if there's a dim light in the classroom, the concentration level goes down, you know. But sometimes I have given the full light, there's a proper light, but still the concentration is affected. What could be other reason? So that means it could be a situational variable. What could be a situational variable? Maybe the temperature in the room, or that bench they are sitting on, it may not be that comfortable. That is also affecting their learning. Or maybe they are having, not having a good health today. That also could be the situational variable. And next one is analyzing the results. Once experiment is conducted, the results are analyzed. And the sixth one, verification of the hypothesis. The result of the experiment exhibits whether hypothesis is accepted or refuted. So is the steps in experimental method clear? Raising a problem, formulating a hypothesis, making the distinction between the what is independent and dependent variable in that statement, then looking at the situational variable, what could be some of the other factors that are affecting concentration, and then analyzing the result and then verifying and checking whether it's accepted or valid. Is it clear? Shall we proceed next?
Yes.
All right. Now, the second method is a case study method. So case study method, what is case study method here? It can be applied on the single subject, small or large group, a classroom, within a school, or within a city, or an event. Case study methods involve in-depth study or longitudinal examination of a single subject or event. It may be descriptive or explanatory. It is limited in scope but more exhaustive and more informative as compared to survey. Now, what is the difference in case study here? Case study is basically either we take a single person or one small group or one small unit for one or one single school to check any of the things, you know. So that is called as a case study. So in case study, we don't go wide, but we go more deep. It's a more in-depth study. In-depth study, like it's like if you're taken the one case, you know, longitudinal examination is that the person got to commit for the long time, come time and again for re-examination, you keep on doing the study, you keep on evaluating till you reach your desired result. Is it? So it is done. So there are various ways that are used for, like we use the questionnaire, we use we can say interviews for the case studies. So there are various ways that are used for case study methods. So now let's look at some of the types of case study. You know, first one is the illustrative case study. What is the illustrative case study? Is the more primarily descriptive studies, one or two instances of the event. What is the illustrative? It's a more primarily studies where you utilize only one or two instances of the event in the case study. Exploratory or the pilot study. Next one is a pilot study or exploratory study. Pilot study is a small type of study that you do to do the initial finding. Like for example, I want to study the, we can say, aggressive behavior of a particular school. Before I implement my studies or my method on the entire school, I just take two students from every class as a pilot study to do a sample study or exploratory study before I apply it to the larger group. That's called the pilot study or the exploratory study. Third one is the cumulative studies. What is the cumulative? Cumulative is the aggregate information from several sites collected from different times. So cumulative is you are studying the, collecting the data of the several sites, not like, for example, I want to study the aggression of school in the all the schools of Punjab, you know. So where I would be going visiting to the various districts of Punjab and collecting the data of the various sites in the various zones, you know, to make it more generalized. You know, the larger the sample, the greater the generalization, the greater it's applied to the rest of the population. All right, is it clear? The last one is the critical instance case studies. What is a critical case study? This examines one or more sites for the purpose of examining a situations of unique interest or little no interest in general ability. Sometimes we tend to generalize case study based on the information that we get from few of the places. But again, critical study also gives you the, we can say, the critical evaluation of the cause and effect questions, which makes your study more valid, and you recheck and re-evaluate before you actually publish your any of the study case studies in your publications. All right. Now there are again various steps for case studies. First one is determining the present status of the case. As you meet the case, you look at the what is the present condition of the case, identifying the most probable uh, incidents of the case, looking at the one of the most prominent incidents or the, because the milestones that took place in his life which has impacted his life. Then the verification of those events, you maybe are formulating a hypothesis, then you diagnose and also look for the remedial measures and do the follow-up. It's like you have a session, like for example, when somebody comes to me for counseling, what is my first step? I look at the present situation, I try to understand, I try to build a rapport, build a connect with them, make them comfortable, get to know them. And then secondly, I get to know about the problem, about themselves, related to your family, their study, their educational background, their medical background, their social background. and then I try to verify those information, that I try to come up, that this is a problem that I really want to work on. And once I have, once I understand the problem, then I diagnose a problem. After diagnosing a problem, I come up with a treatment plan. That's a remedial measure. And once the client is helped, he has received the treatment, he's okay now, he's terminated, but I still do the follow-up of the cases to see whether the client has relapsed or not. Is it clear? Does it make sense, the procedure that I explained? All right, so shall we proceed? The case studies?
Yes, yeah.
All right. Now, next is the ways of case studies, writing analysis of the case studies, panels of experts, analysis of similar case studies, and cross-examination. These are ways. One is you write the analysis of the case study, then the panel of experts. There are panel of experts who actually examine or question. They try to verify the facts and figures, then analyze similar cases. Maybe somebody else might have done the similar study on that. You also try to, like, for example, if you need to do a research on a particular topic, when you, before finalizing the topic for your research, you also go and look at the existing literature and look if somebody else have done the similar study, to find out that if you also could contribute something in the same line. The cross examination, then there is a cross examination, is also known as a inter-rater or inter-observer reliability, where different researchers or different examiners check the same data to give their perspective, whether the data they are analyzing or examining from a different perspective, does it give the same result or the results are different? Clear? So let's look at the last method of educational psychology, that is observation method. Observation literally means looking outside oneself. Facts are collected by observing overt behavior of the individual in order to locate underlying problem and to study developmental trends of different types. Overt observation is a manifestation of core condition within the individual. The study of overt behavior gives indirectly the clues to mental conditions of the individual. Next, observation means perceiving the behavior as it is. In other words of goods, observation deals with the overt behavior of the person in appropriate situations. Observation has been defined as the measurements without instruments. All right. So observation is one of the, you can say, greatest way. I would say that if I'm a psychologist, sometime people, when I initially got into this field of psychology, many of my friends would come and ask me, oh, okay, are you a psychologist? Then tell me what's going on in your mind. Is it? This is a very normal question that's been asked. Okay, you are a psychologist. That means, okay, you must be knowing what's going on in your mind. So I used to tell them, see, I am not a magician who would tell you that what's going on in your mind, or I don't have those supernatural powers. But how do I come to a conclusion about your behavior? That's what's happening with you. It is through observation. It's through perceiving your behavior. I told, if I need to get to know about you, I need to spend some time with you. I need to sit down and talk to you. I need to understand you. I look at your, so when as a psychologist, I counsel, what I look at, what I observe, I not only listen what the client is saying, but I also observe his body language, the way the client is sitting, the way he's maintaining an eye contact, his body language, the way he's sitting, the way he's talking, whether there is any discrepancy between what he's saying or what he's feeling. Are you with me? So observation is a measurement without instrument, but it has been proven that it's one of the very most powerful ways, ways of, collecting data and connecting with the clients. So there are 4 steps: observation, observing the behavior, directly perceiving and observing the behavior, recording the behavior. Immediately you note down or record the most to make the observation more objective. Analyze and interpret the behavior. You analyze the behavior through some scientific process. And the last one, generalize. Based on that, you generalize on the basis of analysis and repetition to make it certain generalization out of that. So now we are just going to lastly look at the types of observation. The first one is a natural observation. Natural observation is done in the natural setting. Like for example, I need to study the aggressive behavior of the children in the school. Can I study their aggressive behavior of the children at home?
Yes.
I need to study their behavior, their classroom behavior, classroom aggressive behavior. For that, can I study the same behavior in the home? No. I need to look at the natural setting. If I need to observe the natural way, how they behave, how they become aggressive in the class, that means I need to observe them in their natural setting, in their classroom. That's when I can get the raw material, the raw information about the children, that how it would be, how they actually behave. Sometimes sometimes it happens, no, sometimes you as a teacher or as a principal, the children are making noise, and you're just passing through a class and you're just look through the window and you're able to look at the how actually they behave in the class and how do they behave when they come to your room. Is it? So what their classroom, how they're behaving in the classroom, that's what who they are. But how they behave when you call them in the office, that's what how they should be. Is it? So if I need to know the real nature, I need to do the observation in the natural setting. Is it clear? Next one is a participant observation. Participant observation, basically observer becomes a part of the group. For example, you have told somebody in the class that you need to observe your class, but your class is not knowing that the principal or the teacher has told them to observe the behavior of the classroom, who is not behaving well when the teacher is not present. Is it? That particular student is part of you, he is part of your research team, but their friends and the students are not aware about it. There you become the participant without the children knowing them, and you try to get the natural observation from there. Is it clear? Third one is a non-participant observation. What is a non-participant observation? Here the observer in such a position, here non-participant, that you are not position that which is the least disturbing to subject under study. The specific behavior is observed in natural setting without subject getting conscious. Here non-participants, that you are not being part of the group, but you are observing it from the far away. You're looking from the distance. That's a non-participant observer. And then next one is a structured observation. What is structured observation? Structured observation basically it's more in a systematic form. There's a time limit for it. There is a certain rules and regulations for it. There's a set pattern of questions are there, that how you should be doing the observation, what could be the first step of observation. It's very structured, in terms which is analyzed. So there's a frame of reference. Frame of reference is the perspective, the time units, and the limits of an act. Okay, so there are three things that are taken care here. And the unstructured is basically it's uncontrolled or free observation without knowing that he or she is being observed. Imagine that you have just left the children free in the ground, in the playground, but you are trying to check their aggressive behavior in the playground. So you have asked them to have a game. They just started playing the game, but your intention is not to whether who is losing or who is winning, but for you to check their behavior. How do they behave in the class? How do they behave in the playground? How do they become aggressive in the ground? That's called the unstructured observation, where without knowing that they are being observed, but you're observing them with the intention of the activity is different, but it's done with a different purpose. Is it clear? So we are done with our first topic of this one. I hope this is clear. Hi, Father Henry. Yes, so father is the only one who is putting on the with the video. So others also can switch on your video if possible, and we can have a small interaction about the educational, the part that we have covered on educational psychology part of it. So if you have any clarification, if you, I think somebody has raised the hand here. Shilpa. Yes, Mr. Crispin. Or anyone have, are you good so far? Or you have any clarification? Okay, so since there's no response from your side, so I would say the silence is a sign of acceptance. So I would proceed with another topic.
Samuel,
So yes,
Sister Lavina here.
yes, Mr. Lavina.
Samuel, we have missed out contribution, I think.
The
One more.
contribution
Yeah.
of this topic is
Yes, yes. We don't have nature in topic.
the nature. Okay, no worries. The contribution I would cover up because next week when I'm covering, I can cover up the contribution part of it. No worries. I will just take care of it. I note it down.
Okay, thank you.
The contribution would be covered. Yes. Anything else? All right. So since we have no questions, so I'll just proceed with another topic. 1 minute. All right. Okay, so we are moving with another topic. All right, so can you hear me? Can you see my screen now? All right. So we are starting with another topic on growth and development. So this is another topic that we are covering today, growth and development of psychology. Here we are covering the human development. Actually, it's a human development. Under that, we are covering growth and development. So let's start off this topic. So as I told, human development, I think same topic you have already done in your B.Ed as well. There is a similar topic which goes with another term, that's growth and development of psychology. It's more or less the same, but only a few of the new theories have been added of Bruner and of Piaget. So other than that, I think things have been the same. So human beings grow, change, and adjust themselves to the environment in the focus of development and behavior, as well as also the concepts, principles, theories of growth and of development. So human development. So it begins from concept to death. It's a from womb to tomb process. And that it's a it goes through the lifespan, begins right from the childhood, and goes all the phases of your life, from the childhood, from infancy, from your childhood, teenage, adulthood, late adulthood, and it goes on and on. All right. So the concept of human development or growth and development, if we now, I think since you have already done this topic, I would like to ask from you, according to you, is growth and development, are they same or they are different concepts together altogether? Is growth and development same or are they different?
They're different.
Okay, so could you somebody tell me how growth is different from the development?
Growth is a process,
Okay, growth is a process. Okay, all right.
and takes, what is it? It goes systematically.
It goes systematically. Okay, all right. And how about development?
Development is changes.
It changes. Okay, great. Yeah, I think what he said is very much right. So here, if you look at the word, the growth and development, growth is more to do with your physical organs, you know. For example, if I take the example, your body structure, or let's say, if they take the example of my hand stop growing at a particular age. The size of my hand does not grow at a particular age, but the functions of my hand continues to grow. That is the development. Is it clear? Growth and development, they go hand in hand, but the growth stops at a particular point, but the developmental is an ongoing process, which goes on and on. And but they start together. I won't say that when the growth was happening there was no development happening. Growth was happening simultaneously, that there was a development happening, but a certain time, a certain point, the growth stops, but the development continues. It's more to do with your cognitive ability. It's more to do with your intellectual capability. It's more to do with your the skills that you keep on developing it. Are we together? So this is a little difference about growth and development. Now let's look at the term growth and development are used interchangeably. Actually, they are conceptually different. Neither growth nor development takes place all by itself. Growth refers to the quantitative changes. What are those quantitative changes? In size, that includes your physical changes in the height, weight, size, and internal organs. Is it clear? It's more of a quantitative changes. Your height. Is your height keeps on growing even after 50 or even after 30?
No.
It stops, the weight goes on and off, size, internal organs. So growth involves changes in the body portions as well as in overall structure and weight. The term growth thus indicates an increase in the bodily dimensions. Growth is more referred to the bodily dimensions. However, the rate of growth differs from one part of the body to the another. So we can't say that when the growth of the body, sometime one part of the body grows much earlier, other one grows bit later. Are you with me? Now, if you look at development, development by contrast refers to qualitative changes taking place simultaneously along with the growth. With quantitative changes of growth, it is defined by progressive series of orderly coherent changes. It's a progressive functions that are growing up. Example I gave you, hand grows up to a certain age, but functions of hand continues to develop, like learning to play piano, learning to do something with the hand, keeps on doing it, developing. Thus development may be defined as a series of overall changes in an individual due to emergence of modified structure functions that are outcome of the interactions and exchanges between organism and its environment. So basically, development is more to do with the modified structures and the functions and the features of it, of the same organs that have grown to a certain extent. All right, I hope it's clear. Now the principles of growth and development, the development follows a pattern of a sequence. Now if you look at what the pattern it followed, development tends to proceed head downwards. According to this principle, the child first gains the control of the head, then arms, and then legs. Have you seen that? What is the first thing that takes control if you have the small, like when my daughter was small, you know, she's now 2 years and 9 months, you know, when she was just a 1 month, not even a month, you know, we just can't hold her, you know, we have to hold her, one hand putting below her neck and then on the back, is it? That's how we hold a newborn child, because the child does not have a control on his head. First she gained a control in the head, then in the arms, you know, then she starts holding, then starts hugging, and then she starts walking or crawling, is it? So that's how it's this progressively it follows a sequence starting from head onwards, head downwards. Second, development proceeds from general to specific. What is general to specific means? A newborn infant moves the whole body initially and then moves the only one part of the body. Like for example, initially, if the child will not move the head alone, if you call, he will move the entire body. But as he grows up, he can only move the one on neck and doesn't have to move the entire body. Third, development is continuous process. Growth continues from the moment of conception until the individual reaches maturity, but the development continues. As I told already, different aspects of growth develop at different rates. Bodily, neither all the parts of body grow at the same rate, nor do all the aspects of mental growth proceed equally. They reach maturity at different times. So they are different growth happening at the different times. All right. Now, the most traits are correlated in development. Generally, it is seen that the child whose intellectual development is above average is so in height, size, sociability, and a special aptitude. So there is a correlation between the growth and development. You know, there is a correlation between intellectual capability of the child and also other functions of this body. Growth is complex. How it's complex? All of its aspects are closely interrelated. The child's mental development is intimately related to his physical growth and its needs. Lastly, growth is a product of interaction of organism and the environment. So it is a growth is what is the interaction between an organism, his nature and nurture. You know, nature and nurture is a concept. Like what is the nature? The internal, the biological part, the genetics, the heredity, and what is the environmental factor, the climate in the home, the situations at the home, the situation in the classroom, the nutritions, all that is a part of the environment or the nurturing process. All right. So there are wide individual difference here, individual differences in the growth that are caused by heredity environment. Heredity, the nature, environment, the nature, they contribute a lot in the individual differences in the children. So growth is both quantitative and qualitative. These are two aspects that are inseparable. You know, they grow together hand in hand. Growth and development goes hands in hand. You cannot separate them, though the growth stops at a particular time, but still they impact each other. Development is predictable, you know, so it's possible for us to predict at an early age the range within which mature development of the child is likely to fall. However, mental development cannot be predicted with the same degree of accuracy. We can have some development with regard to the early age, with regard to the physical, but we cannot do to the mental because your mental state changes every now and then. All right, so we are going to there are some development characteristics are there, which this one same thing I'm covering in the next theories. So now we are going to look at there two theories which are given in the human development. One is the Piaget's theory, other one is the Bruner's theory. So now first we're going to look at the Piaget's theory on cognitive development. What the Jean Piaget talks about in theory. So Jean Piaget theory on cognitive development suggests that the children move through 4 different stages of mental development. And his theory focused not only on the understanding how children acquire knowledge, but also on the understanding of the nature of intelligence. Now, if you look at what is the first stage, he calls the first stage as a sensory motor stage. That is from birth, which goes up to 2 years. Then the second stage, pre-operational stage, that starts from 2 to 7 years. Then the third one is the concrete operational stage, that's from 7 year to 11 years. Then the formation for formal operation stage, that 12 years and up onwards. All right. Now let's try to look into more details about this four stages of cognitive development. The sensory motor stage, ages birth from 2 years. Major characteristics of the developmental changes: the infant knows the world through their movements and sensations. Is it clear? The child is knowing the world through the movements and sensations, through basic actions like sucking, grasping, looking, and listening. These are the through which he get in contact with the world. Infants learn things continue to exist even though they cannot be seen. They can feel it. They are separate beings from the people or objects around them. They realize that their actions can cause things to happen in the world. Okay, so this is the sensory motor stage which goes up to 2 years. Then next stage is the pre-operational. Pre-operational, children begin to think more symbolically. They learn to use words and pictures to represent objects. Children at this age tend to be egocentric, struggle to see things from the perspective of others. They don't have the theory of mind. What is the theory of mind? The theory of mind, when you are able to see things from others' perspective. So the next one is, while they are getting better with language and thinking, they still tend to think about the things that are very concrete terms. Okay, so this happens in the pre-operation stage. Is it clear? Now, moving to the next, the third one is the concrete operational stage, the 7 to 11 years. What happens? The thinking becomes more logical and concrete events. They begin to understand the concept of conversation, that the amount of liquid in a short or wide cup is equal that is of the tall. You know, the skinny glass, for example, the picture that you've seen it earlier, no? Their thinking becomes more logical and organized, but still very concrete. Children begin using inductive logic, reasoning from specific to general. What is the inductive logic? They go from specific to general principles.
So my second point, they begin to understand the concept of conservation or concept. What is that?
Conversations, actually, concept of conservation. It's conservation. I'm little 1 minute. Understand the concept of. It's a conversation, I think. Concept of conversation, not converse. Clear?
Yeah.
All right. So moving to the last one, the formal operational stage, 12 and up onwards. At this stage, they think more abstractly, reason about hypothetical problems. You know, they are able to think about the hypothetical problems. They have more abstract thoughts emerging. Teen begins to think more moral, philosophical, ethical, social, political issues that require theoretical and abstract reasoning. They begin to use deductive logic and reasoning from general principle to specific information. So this is how the children move, you know, from one end to the other, from like starting from having no control, then having little control, then little more control, and then finally having a logical thinking and abstract thinking about the world and the things around them in the environment. All right. So now let's try to look at some of the educational implications of it. Piaget's theory did not explicitly relate his theory to education, although the later researchers have explained how features of Piaget's theory can be applied in teaching and learning. According to Piaget, assimilation and accommodation, this is one of the things he told, require an active learner, not a passive one, because problem solving cannot be taught, but it must be discovered. This is falls under the problem solving skills cannot be taught, but they must be discovered, you know, through the assimilation and accommodation process. Then discovering learning. What is discovering learning? The idea that children learn best by doing and exploring activity. It's like children learn it by doing it rather than just by teaching. Like if we are just going on teaching them, but if they are not asking them to practice and do it, I think they will not be able to learn. So they make mistake, they learn it. That's how the concept becomes clear. Like for example, you tell them, you show them the picture of an apple, tell them this A for apple, but they are not shown how the apple looks like. That's when the picture becomes complete. Is it? So when the concept is connected with the reality. Again, the further educational implications. Therefore, the teacher should emerge the following within the classroom, focus on the process of learning rather than the end product. We should focus on the process rather than the outcome. If we are focusing on the present, the process, outcome definitely would be great. Using active methods, rediscovering and reconstructing truths, using collaborative as well as individual activities so children can learn from each other, devising situations that present useful problems and create disequilibrium in the class. And the last one, evaluate the level of child's development so suitable tasks can be set. So these are some of the practical implications, educational implications of Piaget's theory. Now we are diving into the next theory. That is the Jean Piaget's theory clear?
Yes.
All right. So next is Jerome Bruner's theory on cognitive development. It talks about goal of education is to make learner as autonomous and self-propelled a thinker as possible. Then he talks about education occurs via cultural integration, contrast to the idea of transmission of knowledge and culture-free knowledge. Then folk psychology focus on creating understanding meaning, contextual revelation as opposed to the cognitive revolution. So golden mean is in a student motivation. So that's what the Bruner generally talks about in this theory. Now let's look at Jerome's theory, Bruner's theory on cognitive development. There are three elements that he talks about in his theory. First one is the inactive, second is iconic, third one is the symbolic. In inactive, he talks about children learn through movement and actions. Play with the book. Second, iconic. Learn through images and icons. I think in the how that learning takes place in the preschool or in the nursery section, is it? How do we teach? Through concepts, through picture, through play cards, is it? These are the iconic way of teaching. And then symbolic. Learn through abstract symbols. Read for the research. So these are three things what the Bruner talks about. Now Bruner's theory has directed implication. Now what are the some of the implications he has looked at Bruner's in the teaching practice? Here are some of the implications. Instruction must be appropriate to the level of the learner. What is he talks about? Instruction is very important. If we are not giving a proper instruction, I think it will deviate the client. Like for example, when we do some psychological testing, I need to conduct an assessment on the child. It is said that instructions are very important. If the instructions are not given properly, the client can be deviated. The result, it can affect the result of the test. If the so for example, being aware of the learner's learning modes. Are they learning in the inactive, iconic, or symbolic? Will help you plan and prepare appropriate material for the instruction according to difficulty that matches learner's level. So now there are different levels of learner. Sometimes you see, sometimes you have the photographic memory, sometimes you learn better by repeating again, is it? Sometimes you learn better by underlining and studying. Sometimes you learn better by making notes, is it? So you need to understand the style, learning style. Their existing learning style has to be identified. Then you need to check how effective the learning style is. If it is not effective, you can bring about change in that. The teachers must revisit the material to enhance knowledge. Sometimes I've seen the teachers have done B.Ed. After that, once they're done B.Ed, they are not touching the books at all. You need to revisit what you have learned, the material, all the things that have been doing it. All those things make sense, when you start teaching, building on pre-taught ideas to grasp the full formal concept uh, in the paramount importance according to the Bruner. Next is feel free to reintroduce vocabulary, grammar points, other topics now and then to push the students to deeper comprehension and longer retention. So we need to keep repeating and reintroducing a lot of other things. Sometimes we need to repeat them the basics again, getting them introducing to the basics so that the foundation becomes very strong. Now, second implication, the material must be presented in a sequence, giving the learner the opportunity, acquire and construct knowledge, transform and transfer his learning. Students should be involved in using the prior experience and structure of the learning to learn new knowledge, help students to categorize new information to help to see similarities and differences between items. Teachers should assist learners in building their knowledge. The assistance should fade away as it becomes necessary. Teachers should provide feedback that is directed towards intrinsic motivation. Intrinsic is internal motivation, grades and competition that are not helpful in learning process. Bruner states that the learners must experience success, failure, not as a reward and a punishment, but as an information. All right, so we are done with our second topic as well. That's human development. We have covered both the theories, Bruner's theory and Piaget's theory. One of the theories definitely comes in the exams, in the repeated papers. I think in the last year papers, also I think the previous year. One of the theories you need to be thorough with at least one of the theories, either Bruner's or Piaget's theory would definitely appear in the cognitive development. Is it clear?
Which theory is more important?
I think both are important actually. Piaget's theory is something that comes quite often. That's what sir has been telling me. But again, both are equally important. I think both are we can say more or less the same. It's both are not that complicated. It's easy to very easy points they have given. Okay, so now I am moving to another topic, which is again a very important topic. They are very short topics. I think the major portion, the most time consuming was education psychology, which I think I've covered already. Wait, I need to open. The next one I'm going to talk is the conflict.
No, mental health. No?
Okay, you want to, okay, next one is the mental health. Okay, fine. Now let's look at the mental health. All right. So mental health. Just for a second.
Mental development is there.
Is the screen visible? Not visible, is it?
No.
So there's some problem with my screen sharing. 1 minute.
And now it is visible.
It's visible? Okay. But the screen is not moving. Is it visible?
No.
Not yet. Okay, now it would. Okay. Yes, it's visible now, is it?
Yes.
All right. So next topic we are going to cover is mental health. This is something which is very much connected with my own day-to-day life. This topic, mental health, since I am the mental health professional, being a psychologist, I promote mental health a lot. So now this is since very important topic, mental health. So I want to know from you. We can have some discussion on this topic as well. Why do you think mental health is very important nowadays? Especially in the school context, if we talk about why mental health, what is mental health and why it's important? All right, so since no
Mental health is related to the personality of the person. The
okay,
whole personality depend on mental health of the person.
okay, the entire
Mental health
personality,
is very important actually
okay,
for the learner and the teacher.
yes,
To manage
definitely.
the stress,
The managing the
like
stress,
the
okay,
emotions,
managing the stress and the
controlling,
emotions,
controlling emotions.
Proper
Mm.
controlling,
education takes place.
yes,
Since we are dealing with the human beings,
yes,
so we need to know the mental health of every child.
yes, so definitely I
And
think
we are also living in such an environment
yes,
where every moment, every day, mental health gets affected.
yes. So I think all the answers that you have given, they're very much right. So as you know that how much aware we are about our physical health, is it? We are so much aware about our physical health that even if a little headache we have, or we have a little temperature in our body, what is the first immediate step that we take when we have a temperature in the body or when we have a little headache? What do we do?
We go to the doctor,
We go to a
Take medicine.
doctor,
we take
or
We
medication,
take
we take
medicine.
medicine, or we have a temperature, we have
we
a
take
thermometer, we check. So we know some of the ticks and traits immediately. We know I need to take a Dolo 650, or I can take a paracetamol, or I can take a little tablet with which it would be okay. That's the kind of awareness I have about my physical health. And that conscious I am about. But when it comes to mental health, we ignore. I am not feeling okay today. Oh, fine, no worries. It would be okay. अपने आप ठीक हो जाएगा. The time would heal. No, if we see, we keep on ignoring the mental health aspects of our life. We think it's not that important. But let me tell you, we have more mental health issues than physical one, which are unaddressed, which are not addressed. Do you agree with me? In our day-to-day life,
yes.
we don't address even our own issues. How about we will address other people's? Like, for example, being a teacher, you yourself is having a lot of problem in your life, and how can you give a sound mental health to a student? Are you with me? So mental health is very important in today's time, because I have seen people developing a lot of physical problems because of having not good mental health. Is it? So mental health is very important on this one. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is an important at every stage of life, from childhood, and adolescence through adulthood. Is it clear? So over the course of your life, you experience mental health problems, your thinking, mood, behavior could be affected. Many factors contribute to mental health problems, including biological factors such as genes and brain chemistry, life experiences such as trauma and abuse, family history on mental health issues. So what could be reason? One of the factor, biological factors in through genes. Some people, sometimes the depression runs in the family. Is it certain psychological disorders runs in through the family? You know, life expectation experiences. Sometimes we had certain traumas and certain abuse experiences in life. They leave the trauma on us. Family history on mental health problems. Sometimes we too have a family history as well. So mental health problems are common and the help is available. People with mental health problems can get better and many recover completely. Is it clear now about what's mental health? Now moving on to some of the common mental health problems. What are some of the warning signs? Some of how, so let's say we are going to look at eating or sleeping too much or too little, putting away from people and usual activities. These are another sign, warning signs. Having low and no energy, feeling numb or like nothing matters, having unexplained aches and pains, feeling helpless and hopeless, smoking, drinking, using drugs more than usual, feeling usually confused, forgetful, on edge, angry, upset, worried, and scared, yelling and fighting with family and friends, experiencing severe mood swings and cause problems in relationships, having persistent thought and memories that you can't get out of your head, hearing voices and believing things that are not true, thinking of harming yourself and others, inability to perform daily tasks like taking care of your kids, getting to work and school. So do you think these are some of the warning signs and some of the common mental health symptoms that you experience day to day life? They're things that you would come across in your children and other people, those who are having the symptoms of not having good mental health. Is it clear? I think they're very simple. No, they're so now let's look at criteria for good mental health. What are some of the criteria for good mental health? Positive mental health allows people to realize their full potential, cope up with the stresses of life, work productively, make meaningful contributions to the communities. And what are some of the ways to maintain positive mental health? Include getting professional help if you need, like going to a psychologist like me or a counselor, connecting with others, your support system, your friends, your family, staying positive, getting physical activity, helping others, getting enough sleep, and developing coping skills. So these are some of the criteria and ways through which you can attain a good mental health. Is it clear?
Yes.
And next one is this is very important, the last one, because this usually comes in the 10 marks question. Strategies of promoting mental health of students and teachers. Okay, though first of all here we look at the first one is the psychological and emotional well-being, providing social and emotional skill programs, providing timely support to those with additional needs, involving students and families in decision making. So conducting a lot of programs on social and emotional well-being where these things could be addressed. Second one is resilience. Resilience is very important. You know, what is the resilience? It's ability to cope through the negative events. So you need to have the resilience power in you. The challenges or adversity, it is a skill that can be developed. How the resilience can be developed? Positive social connections, safe environment, life skills such as positive coping and positive problem solving skills, pro social values, positive self regard, sense of purpose and agency or responsibility. So these are some of the ways through which resilience is very important. Resilience is important for a teacher, even for a child, to cope up with the day-to-day negative life events. Otherwise, you will get into depression, stress, and all that problems. Next one is on personal and social capability. This involves students learn to recognize and regulate emotions. First, need to learn about the emotions, recognizing the emotion and regulating the emotions. Develop empathy for others, understanding relationship. What is empathy? Empathy is not a sympathy. Sympathy is what? Sympathy is different from empathy. What is sympathy? Sympathy is having pity for other people. Empathy is not having a pity on other, but you understand and feel what the other person is going through. Establish and build a framework for positive relationships. Work effectively in teams and develop leadership skills. Handle challenging situations constructively. At the pedagogical level, schools explicitly teach social and emotional learning skills. Provide a comprehensive well-being educational programs like conducting a timely workshops. Explicitly develop personal and social capabilities. Now, at a relational level, school can have high but achievable expectations for student learning and behavior. Promote positive and supportive teacher-student relationship. Peer peer-peer relationships, use positive approaches to manage student behavior, including and fostering a range of strategies to prevent and respond to bullying. And the last one is notice and intervene when students experience problem related to their learning and well-being. So this is a very small topic, but this is something very important. I would ask you to focus on strategies on promoting mental health, because this is something very important which usually comes, when it comes, the question would usually come, what is mental health and what are the strategies of promoting, because this is the application part in education which they usually ask for it. Clear? So mental health is clear. Now let's cover up the last topic, the small one which is left out. That is a conflict. What to this part? So are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
The conflict. Now let's try to look at the last topic for today. That's the conflict. So what's conflict? Conflict is defined as a clash between individuals arising out of the differences in thought process, attitudes, understanding, interest, requirements, and even sometimes perceptions. A conflict results in heated arguments, physical abuse, or definitely loss of peace and harmony. Conflict can actually change relationship. Misunderstanding and even ego clashes can also lead to conflict. Every individual has different ways to look at things and react to various situations. All right. Now, there are different types of conflict. There are 4 types of conflict. One is interpersonal, intrapersonal. Second is interpersonal, intergroup, and intragroup. Actually, last one is the intragroup. Actually, not the first one is the intra. Second one is the intergroup. Okay, so there's a little error here. So, what is the intrapersonal conflict? The conflict by a single individual within himself. When you have a conflict within you, like you are confused about certain things, that means you have conflict within yourself. That is called, with your own goals, with your own values, that's called a intrapersonal conflict within yourself. But when you have a conflict with other people or more than 2 people with others, that is called interpersonal. You have a conflict, your interests are not matching up with the other people, you have a conflict with them. Then coming to the intra group, what is it? It's an intra group. Intra group is within a group and a team. Like for example, when a group of a particular teachers in a school, they have a conflict within them, it is called a intra group conflict. But when one school teacher have a conflict with the other school teacher, it was called as a inter-group conflict. Clear?
No, this can be inside also, no? Intergroup.
Pardon?
This can be within one group also. For example, one school only. Two
Yeah.
groups.
Yeah, it can be within the school also, depending on. It can be within the, like for example, teachers have some subgroups.
Yeah.
Okay, they have a groupism. So it can be intergroup within that bigger group. Clear? So moving to the next. Now, some of the barriers to of effective, how the conflict acts as a barrier of effective decision making. So first one is a bounded rationalities. What is the bounded rationalities? The concept is that when we make decisions, we cannot be fully rational because we won't have all the possible information or the cognitive processing ability to make fully informed, completely rational decisions. Like, what is a bounded rationality here? That you don't have the complete or the relevant information about it. That's the reason there is a conflict. Sometimes happens, you know, we get conflicted with somebody, but we don't have the proper knowledge of it. Is it? So that's a bounded rationality. Second is a confirmation bias. So, the tendency to pay attention to the information that confirms our existing beliefs and ignore or discount information which are not existing with your beliefs. For example, you listen to something, but you only pay attention to what is confirming with your, what is connected with your belief, and rest of things you don't bother. That's called as a confirmation bias. That's why there is a conflict. Then there is explication of commitment. That means tendency of the tendency of decision makers to remain committed to a poor decision even when doing so leads to increasing negative outcomes. So lack of commitment, you know, sometimes people lack commitment in decision making because they are not committing. Their tendency to remain committed to poor decisions. They are not able to shift from poor decision to the right one. That's why there is a acceleration of commitment. Fourth one is the process conflict. What's process conflict? Conflict is about the best way to do something. Is conflict is task oriented and constructive, not focused on the individual involved. So what is the process conflict? It's more a task oriented or constructive. It's not focused. It's not a individual centric. It's a task centric or task oriented, not individual oriented. And the last one is a relationship conflict. Conflict between individuals is based on personal or personality differences. This type of conflicts tend to be destructive rather than constructive. All right. So this is a very small topic. I think there's another topic that's related to it. It's called stress. Stress, I think we would be covering later. So since we have, you know, almost a time, so we have got 5 minutes left now. If possible, you guys can ask me question if you have any clarification. We can interact, or you can give a general feedback on the session. Some of you can switch on your video if possible. So likewise, we have covered the 4 topics of today. The second paper, that is psychology of learning and development. Were the concepts clear? All 4 of them, all the 4 topics that I covered today. Rest we would be providing the notes for the same. I think when you read it will be more clear. I think why I was rushing through quick bit fast, because I think you have on and off you have studied psychology here and there, so I think these concepts may not be that new to you, and moreover you have studied the same thing in your B.Ed as well. Yes, any feedback or any clarification? Still have 2 more minutes, 2 or 3 minutes more.
Sir, concept is
Okay.
clear.
Pardon?
Concept is very clear, sir. We
Okay.
understood.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sister.
So with the notes, it will be more clear and we'll be able to go
Yes,
through
yes, definitely. You know,
deeply.
yes, definitely, and we will be sharing more. The notes will be more descriptive. You know, yeah.
You have
Okay.
simplified very well the
But
notes.
yeah, sister, come again.
It was, it was good to listen to you. Though we have studied in B.Ed, but then we have forgotten gloriously over the
Oh,
years.
okay. I think it has brushed your knowledge on the concepts again, no?
The way you explained it was really good, very simple terms which we could understand.
Okay.
Uh, thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Sister Lavina. Thank you so much. Yeah, Sister Anslet is talking, I think.
As sir was referring to the previous question papers and he was providing the notes, it would be good if you follow the same and then give us the notes that
Oh,
way.
no,
Other than
definitely.
you have
No,
spoken, that way we understand. But in
yes.
case there are certain things when the questions are tricky, no, we are not able to understand.
Okay,
So
no
in case
worries.
you go through the last question papers, provided the notes accordingly, it would be making the life little easy.
Yeah, sure, Shane. We'll take care of. We'll make the notes accordingly based on the last year's question paper only. Okay. All right then. If nobody has any clarification, and I think hope everything is good, so we will close the session for today. And next week I would be taking some more topics on the similar paper, and the sir would be finishing the bit that the research bit that is yet not completed, so that he would be covering up next week. All right, so thanks to all of you for your active participation. It was a great interacting. I think today you have really contributed a lot of ideas, and you have really interacted very well, so thanks to all the sisters and the students present here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sister.